I'm Tom, founder of A Work in Progress and host of the Show File podcast, and this is the first Show File podcast live. Let's make some noise. Today we're talking about creating performance systems with gravity rigs. Make some noise for gravity rigs, everybody. Thank you so much. Right, as you probably saw, if you saw any of the content, I did quite a lot of work before this event, talking to everyone that we're talking to. So, like, I remember you guys, we did a Google Meet, didn't we, to make some content? We did indeed. And that basically informed a lot of notes that we all kind of took, and then informed the conversations that we're going to be having now. I think when I started, I had an idea of what we were going to do, and it kind of changed as I started to talk to everyone and finding their individual experiences of these kind of topics that we're talking about. I had to kind of pivot a little bit away from what we were initially thinking, which has been really interesting. And so I've written a little preface for every podcast, little preachy preface of kind of what I think we're trying to say when we're saying, like, what is creating performance systems, because I know some of you guys may not understand what we even mean by performance systems, whereas we're incredibly savvy to that because that's pretty much a lot of our careers so far. So just to give everything a little bit of context, performance systems are at the core of enabling performers to go on stage to do incredible shows every time they do it, anywhere in the fucking world, right? It's not just about nerd shit. I mean, that comes into it. Audio clock, auto switching, all the stuff that you learned earlier. But it's more of a 360 view of what instruments need to be played, where does the audio need to come from, in what format does it need to be delivered to the audio team or whatever, do the instruments need to be automated, where the fuck on the stage are the instruments that need to be played, and all that kind of thing. This is what performance systems always kind of come into. You know, we're also always considering things like, does it need to fly? Because we just put it in a 50-kilo flight case, and the person at the Ryanair check-in desk is looking at us very fucking angrily, being like, I'm not letting that on the plane. What are you talking about? So there's like a whole chicken and egg process. Sometimes I think people think like, oh, do I need to build the system and then build the show, or build the show and then build the system? Whereas, like, actually, if you approach it a little bit more holistically and have conversations with companies like Gravity Rigs, or, you know, when we're working with the Work in Progress and working with guys like you, we try and start at the beginning, like, right, here's our core fucking vision, right? How are we going to start getting into that? Because you'll realize that when you say, I want to MIDI clock this thing, Gravity are like, are you sure? Because that doesn't actually have MIDI clock. You know, things like this happen all the fucking time. So we're going to get into it. You guys are going to talk about your kind of journey of what you take every client on, your client journey, to go from, hi, I am artist, shit, stuff's going quite well, I need to fly around the place, to Gravity presenting lovely system on stage.
Yeah, and we kind of do this over the years of designing and building rigs for people. We've found a process that works for us. So that's what we're going to try and touch upon a little bit, is our process, because that'll apply to you as well when you're designing and putting rigs together. Hopefully some of the points in this process will make sense and help you save time, save money, and design the best rig you can.
So I think one of the things that I found when we were kind of sending notes back and forth and trying to figure out about, like, what we were going to talk about and how we were going to talk about it, there's actually a huge number of parallels in the way that you work, and also, you know, the musical and the programming sides that we do as music directors. There's an amount of sort of like discovery and then prep and then get it into a room and see if everything works, and if it doesn't, cool, let's go back, let's change some stuff, and then go into more of a, like, we actually have to build it now and put it on a stage. So you guys, and I love the way that you guys call it, because we use an absolutely parallel world when we're interacting with people. So it's like, you guys call it capture and requirements is where you start, right?
Yeah, it's discovery. It's capturing requirements.
So we call it discovery when we're doing stuff with clients.
Yeah. And we want to get as many people, anyone involved in the gig, we want to get them saying what they want, what they need, what their vision is. And then we go away and think about it, generally. Then we'll have another meeting once we've worked out the best way to approach, or the best options to feed back, and we'll go from there. That's always the best way to start.
We like to sit down and just identify, what is this system supposed to do? What is it going to be doing? How many outputs do we think it's going to have? How much money have we got to spend on this thing?
which is incredibly important.
Which is very,
and nothing
very
to be ashamed
important.
of. It's better to find it out in the first place rather than when you're halfway in and everybody's going, we're going to have 12 guitars. And you're like, have you got 12 guitars? They're like, no, I've got half a guitar.
And it's like, how much time have we got to build this thing? You know, there's a roadmap, and there are a few things you've got to tick. You can have the most ambitious, thinking about the most ambitious system, but if you haven't got the time and the money to build it, what's the point? You know, so capture and requirement is all about thinking about as many things as you can about the rig and what it's supposed to be doing.
Because I suppose when we're music directing, that's one of the first things we're trying to figure out is like, look, send us the music, send us ideally the stems as well, and then we're thinking about who's going to be on the stage. I guess that's really important information for you guys as well, because it is literally going to define, like, you know, what types of DIs, how many DIs, where are those DIs going to be. When you're trying to figure out what the best thing to do for each show is, you're also trying to figure out all the things you don't want to put on a show.
And I think we touched on this earlier today, is like simplicity is key. So
much.
You know, just keep it as simple as possible.
Yep.
And that comes out in that kind of early process of deciding what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Bit of a nerd factor as well, but it gets interesting when bands or artists or even production managers or show designers come to us with a vision and they don't know how to do it. And we say, well, that hasn't been done before, but we can find out how to do it, and we can find out what the best way is and the reliable, and we go and do some R&D and then prove the concepts and then come back. So it's even good. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So once you've kind of figured out like the list of things that need to go together, or, you know, your list of musicians who you're going to have on the stage, you guys then go to like a schematic, right? Because you're coming at from a more technical standpoint. Where
Absolutely.
Where I guess for us, we'd be going through songs and figuring out parts. And I mean, yeah, fucking great. Look at that on the on the screen. That's exactly it, isn't it?
It's really important to do that. Just even if it's like some Spinal Tap, like on the back of a napkin in pencil.
Yeah.
You've got to write it down. You've got to draw it down, because that's where you start to spot holes in a design. Maybe you won't have enough ports on a Mac. You're like, oh, right, I haven't got enough ports to connect all our MIDI controllers, whatever. Once you start drawing that thing up as a schematic, you've got a really good roadmap to building your rig. You've also got a shopping list for when you start buying stuff. You've also got something to fault find further down the line, like, why is that not running? Get the schematic out. There's a whole load of reasons why making something like that is such a good idea early on.
It's just note-taking in general, isn't it? You know, but literally, it doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't matter how scruffy it is. It doesn't matter how, you know, not proper or not pro. It's like, have you written it down, and have you looked at what you've written down and gone, okay, let me just read this 2 or 3 times and see if it actually makes sense, rather than just kind of bowling in first day of rehearsals and being like, this is definitely going to be okay.
It's really easy to do a sanity check with a schematic, whereas if it's an email with a list of bits and pieces and how it connects, it's really hard to spot the faults in the design. But with a schematic, you've got that sanity check, and we do it between each other.
Yeah, we try to do it with our shows as well. I think if you're lucky enough to have people around you you can trust to have a conversation with, and they're not going to just go, "Why are you being a dumb fuck?" There's so much. I mean, just looking at this, the amount of complexity of, like, they're not necessarily hard parts individually. It's when you've got to get all of them to do the same thing at the same time every day in South America.
But even looking at that, you can see there's an on-stage and an off-stage element.
Yeah.
Each side is quite complicated, but what's connecting the two is only 6 lines.
Yeah, right.
So there's been a conscious decision there to, like, okay, we're changing this thing over in a festival.
Yeah.
How many lines are we going to plug in? We don't want to be plugging in more than we need to. And that's what has driven the design is, it can be complicated at one end because all that gear's on a riser, but what's connecting the two, let's make it as simple as possible. That's all comes out of looking at the schematic and working it out.
And you can see, just for illustration purposes, you can see the on-stage area and the off-stage area, and that's reflected on the same side as these.
Because I suppose whatever you do in every context that you're making a show, there's always going to be some amount of compromise, isn't there? There's always going to be something where it's like that. This was our ideal, but for whatever reason, whether that's how you're touring it, like are you flying it as opposed to freighting it? Do you have to still put it in your fucking backpack? That's going to mean you're compromised on certain things, and this is almost like a stage of when you're sitting down actually thinking about that show that you can go like, well, I can't really get away with doing this because maybe you're doing tiny rooms and you need the playback rig to sit behind the drummer. It's like you're not going to be able to have a big part of racks like that behind the drummer maybe, but you need to be able to make that decision as early as possible also, so you don't end up spending loads of money on. I mean, the number of times that we've worked with people who have said, I definitely want this synth, and then we've got it in the room, we start programming it, and they've been like, I hate this synth. And you're like, great, well that synth was $2,500, we better go buy another one. And figure out totally new parts.
And you bought two because you needed a backup as well.
Well, exactly this, yeah. And as much as it seems kind of superfluous when you're talking about an artist who's like very big and can afford to dump $5,000 into synths, that's still $5,000 that could have been spent on not only the correct stuff, but maybe something else that you needed that you now can't have.
In terms of the order of things, which we haven't talked about,
sure.
But don't buy anything until you know exactly that you've got the whole picture, you've got the whole budget, you can build it in time. Don't buy anything, because if you buy something and you change your mind, you've then lost that money out of the budget.
Read the manual.
Yeah, that does feed into the whole R&D thing of if you've got an idea or a concept for a rig, you might have a rig that you want to clock some drum machines off using MIDI clock, for example, which happens quite a lot. Plug that in loosely, plan it, plug it in, try it, see if the idea works before you go out and buy a load of equipment that then suddenly doesn't work together. Try your ideas before you commit. That's something. Again, that's part of that process, which is what this photo is. This is the rig we did for DJ Luciano with
kitchen table,
my dining room. The family didn't eat for a week while I was doing the R&D, through to the finished product, which we did a gig in Miami in December. Like Tractor, Ableton, whole load of stuff, talking. But the original concept was one drum machine, tiny bit of tech to prove the idea before we committed and before we spent loads of money.
The challenge on this one was to sync Ableton to Tractor, and plus lots of other stuff. But Tractor was the backbone, and everything else was synced from that. And they hadn't had much success, so we were tasked with doing it. We succeeded, and then built a whole rig around it. Here we are in rehearsals. It's another rehearsals, and then goes into boxes and go and do a show.
How many pellies is that there?
16.
Fucking hell. Ryanair's going to get well fucking angry about that as well, aren't they?
Very tired crew.
R&D is like a really fun part of a show. I guess we try and bundle it into our discovery time with artists, where we'll set up a bunch of stuff in front of them and be like, right, what do you seem to gravitate towards? Do you prefer sampling over synthesis? Do you prefer, just singing and playing your guitar over any other stuff? And people can kind of fall into a trap of, well, this thing seems really good, so I need to just buy this thing and then I'll be really good. And it's just absolutely not the case. And I remember watching a rundown of the first Disclosure show where they had that little fucking monotribe in one of the stations. That shit little Korg thing.
Still there.
Is it still there?
Oh, yeah.
Two of them.
Because it's fucking sick. Like, they just one their finger up and down it and just goes...
I mean, it's just an ace little, we need a noise box.
Yeah.
Which I think every rig needs something like that, because what if the whole playback system dies? You've got this thing that's not synced to anything, doesn't rely on any trigger, and while anything's being rebooted, you can just go on the monotribe and go, wow. And so there's no dead time, And little things like that which are essential.
100%, and especially when it's a noise that's the correct context for your show, like on a Disclosure show, if you hear a weird synth noise, you're going to go, yeah, great. On other shows that may be, I'm sorry, Keys World, you're going to have to just play piano for a little bit because everything else is fucking broken and we just need some chords, please, a little bit of chords while everybody panics. Don't show panic yourself though. That R&D stage is really, really important. So I guess once you've figured out all the shit that you're going to use, we're then on to putting it into boxes, put it into a room. I mean, for us, that becomes what we would call programming, where we sit down with it and actually start going, cool, let's like plug it in and make sure it actually does some stuff it's supposed to do.
You've missed out the money bit though.
The money, oh yeah. the argument that I have with management about how we've completely rinsed the tool support in one purchase of 7 synthesizers.
Yeah. So once you've worked out everything you want to use, you add it up, how much it's going to cost and how much it's going to cost to build, and if everyone's happy, then it goes ahead.
I think there's also nothing wrong with sometimes letting money drive a decision, because it's still industry, right? These artists can't just tour into infinity and continue building and continue buying and continue putting it onto a plane. Like being money conscious from that kind of stage there's nothing wrong with it. You're not ruining the art. It's just that if you're doing 100 cap venues, no, we fucking can't do this is 16 Pelly cases. This
is the reality. Is the live thing is the money stream for most artists. So saving money on freighting, saving money on not purchasing equipment you don't need, being really conscious of that is a thing. Especially once you get into touring with production managers, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we have boundaries we have to work within always.
Yeah. There's innovation that I think can come from having to do something cheaply, or I think anyone in music probably relates to just sitting in front of an empty page on a door trying to write a song, and it's like you can write anything you want, and that's actually quite hard. Whereas if you're adding these kind of constraints to it, where it's like, I don't know, maybe I want to write a house tune, or maybe I want to write a folk tune, or maybe I saw a card that inspired me today on the North Circular, and that turned into a record, which you may laugh, but Dusky Lord of the Ring Roads is an EP that's fucking sick and basically inspired by tripping around the North Circular going to raves. So, it's not that crazy. But, having to think outside a box is not a bad thing. I think that's just the point I'm trying to make.
Those limitations mean you have to work with what you've got, and you probably get more out of an instrument because of that. You look for stuff in the gear that's in front of you and try and eke out as much as you can.
Yeah.
Well, usually it's around a vision. It's the artist's vision, and that's what we love doing. Or the show designer's vision, or whatever vision it is, that's what usually drives everything. And sometimes the money gets too much and we have to claw it back and the vision gets compromised a bit. But
we like spending money. So
unfortunately, we're in a room full of people who are very good at spending your money. In your notes, you put build and soak, which I don't understand. What build and soak? Can you explain build and soak to me?
Build is build. We put it together. That's a finished build. Once we've finished building it, we'll test the functionality. It doesn't take long. All the connections in and out. Does it work? Then we'll leave it for a long time, and that's a soak test. So we'll leave it for 24 hours whilst we're doing other work. It's ticking over in the background. We make sure it doesn't stop. There's no video cut out. There's no MIDI drop out.
You just leave it turned on, just like running Ableton?
Day or two. Running. Yeah, so that's a soak test.
I mean, I don't know if it's happened to anyone else, but I've been in a situation before where everything's been working perfectly before the artist walked in. And then the minute people walk through the door, it stops working, and you're like... Honestly, it was working 5 minutes ago.
It's because technology fucking hates us, bro.
Exactly.
Mac OS, fuck me.
So we like to do that. I mean, we've even talked about throwing a rig in the boot of a car and driving around London a couple of times just to simulate the first journey out of a rehearsal room to gig one. You'd be amazed how many things can go
Throw
wrong.
it out a first-story window to simulate the first fly pack.
There you go.
No, I totally get it. I mean, that's a really smart thing to do, because there's definitely... The worst things, when I was doing more playback stuff, the worst things I've had to fix are the things that turn up halfway through the tour for seemingly no fucking reason, and you basically have to sit there with it for 2 weeks running it to get it to do it again, because those problems turn into the hot potatoes that nobody wants to fucking do. You've emailed Motu and you've emailed fucking Ableton, you've emailed everyone, and sorry to name drop you there, Ableton, but you are the software we all use, unfortunately. But you've emailed everyone just saying like, oh, this weird thing's happening, and they all go, it's their fault. It's their fault. And then they're like, have you got any logs? And you're like, fuck me. It took me 2 weeks to get this one fucking video. Like, now I have to do that 2 weeks again. So it's smart to do that soak test rather than that soak test being half a tour.
It just makes your life hell on the road. So you might as well try and make it go wrong before you go anywhere. You know, it just makes sense. Yeah.
Have a delicious can of signature beer while you wait for your rig to soak. Plug in my sponsors. Once you've done that build, then we're going into rehearsals. The rig is soaked in 0% IPA, and we're ready to fucking get the band into some sort of, state of playing.
So there'd generally be a handover. We would hand over the rig at that stage. It'd probably be pre-rehearsal, to be honest, but we'll bring it to a rehearsal studio. It'd be just us and the text, and we'll go through how we used it, the programming parts of it, and it'll just work completely smoothly.
First time, every time.
Yeah, there's always a bit of knowledge transfer from our point of view, because we've spent 2 or 3 weeks, maybe longer, building this rig, so we've got quite familiar with some of the interfaces.
Yeah.
People we're handing the rig over might not be as familiar, so there's a transition period where we like to work with whoever's got a rig from us, hold their hand, get the show files on the rig, just help that smooth out that process into rehearsals.
Having a conversation.
Talking,
yeah. I definitely print out a massive schematic as well. That's my favourite bit.
Gravity rigs and their massive schematic.
Should make them into T-shirts, actually.
Yeah, you should.
Everyone should wear a schematic.
Schematic T-shirt. Turn around. Oh yeah, it's the that MIDI cable there.
Actually, the Pet Shop Boys did that, didn't they, with the tour program?
Yeah, they did. They put the schematic that I slaved over on their centre folder, their tour program. So I'm a published artist. Yeah,
sick.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very Pet Shop Boys thing to do, to be fair. So when you're preparing that information, are you like creating a document, or is it more in the room? Because I know that we find it really, really useful to, create as many kind of PDFs as possible for people as like little references. I mean, we have an internal note-taking system anyway, but it's like, I think it's often underestimated how important it is to explain things correctly to other human beings, because there can be a lot of culture, like quite elitist culture, I think, in the supporting roles of live music, where it's like, well, if you can't just turn up and make it work, then you're the fucking problem.
Both of us like to bring people through, the younger lot, the people who are really trying and show talent and are keen. We will definitely bring those people through. With that elitist doesn't exist with us at all.
I guess the point I'm more trying to make is that it's something that you see with a lot of organisations that are, working to the kind of level that you guys are, and other organisations similar to you guys that I've worked with in the past, is, communicating that information is actually one of the things that keeps you succeeding.
It's not secret knowledge at all for us.
We want to explain it as best as possible. We want to have it in diagrams, in writing, and in the phone call, and however it goes in for that person, we want them to understand. We want them to go and do the gig. We don't want them to have problems.
Yeah, I think some of that is quite good practice just for yourself anyway. Like if you're running a rig, an Ableton rig, take screenshots of all of your preference windows. That thing might be working for 9 months, and then for no reason whatsoever it stops working on a gig. If you haven't got that reference point from when it was working, you're chasing your tail a bit more than if you're like, I know what that window should look like, I know what this should look like. It's even little things like that, and those very handover useful documents are the kind of thing anyone should be doing. Is running a live rig. That's certainly what when we'd hand over to someone, that's the kind of thing they get.
I think sometimes when you're in a industry where so many people aren't necessarily like specifically qualified for it, not expecting people to understand things that maybe they don't, but also maybe this is the day that they learn it, is a much healthier way to approach that kind of stuff, right? Like, this may be the first time, and also someone may be like, oh, well, no, I do definitely know how to do that, but the way that you do it is kind of way easier than the way that I fucking learned. In fact, I literally had a conversation with someone about RTP MIDI the other day about it, and they were like, oh, I don't understand. I'm getting really confused about all this bonjour bullshit. And I said, well, just use IP addresses. That's the quickest way to get it to connect. And he was like, oh, right, I can do that. It's totally cool. Like, ask that fucking question,
We're gonna start creating content that are these little videos like that. Because we forget sometimes as well,
absolutely.
We'll go like, how the hell what did we do a year ago when we did this? So little reference videos like that are super useful, and we're going to start producing them.
Yeah.
This year, we're going to do a whole kind of series
Great.
and stuff like that.
Watch this space.
Behind the scenes, talking rigs with Gravity Rigs.
Yeah.
Love talking rigs.
He loves talking rigs. Great. So, should we just talk about some fucking artists? Because you guys have done a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll talk about Little Sims and Burna Boy because they're kind of similar rigs. If you flip to a couple of schematics along the line, next one. That's it. Here we go. So we've got Little Sims here, which is quite a simple playback rig, which is pretty much what you see. This one, that one there, 16 outputs.
Similar to the last playback rack we looked at previously.
What's nice about schematics as well, I know we're going on about schematics, but the symmetry shows the redundancy as well. You've got the left and the right side, which are the two streams, and the thing in the middle that splits it, that switches. So Little Sims came to us. We definitely want a digital system, but we don't want to use it digital yet, but we want it for the future. So this Xbox thing here, with the direct out thing that Jamie showed us, that can output in Dante and it can output in MADI. We use the MADI for the analog output, but we can also send that away. They came back the next year and said, we want to upgrade it to 32. So we pretty much made it into what you can see down there in the bottom, which is the 32 channel output version. And we want a bit of MIDI to go to program changes for the guitar world. So we put that together for them. And they actually bought one of so that's a fly rig, basically. I was going to say that was part of the thing was... It's got to have loads of outputs, but we need to fly it. And that's what's wicked about this Ferrofish gear. Come and have a look a bit later once we're set up. Dead compact, but there's loads of outputs. It's a really functional rack, but it's only in like 4 or 5U, you know.
How much does it weigh?
The 32 is under 30 kilos.
32 would work out about 28 without any MIDI gear. All in. The 16's about 25 kilos.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's got to be under 30. It's
got to be under 30,
not getting on the plane if it's not under 30.
Exactly.
So they came back the second year and said, we want the 32, which we built them. And they also said, have you got any flight cases that the sleeves can go in? We said, yes. We've got a single bay or double bay 20U rack on wheels that's kind of truck proof. But these sleeves fit in and out, and you can slip them in and out and be touring all around America with your truck and then fly to Mexico City to do a radio show and without having to quit the tour.
Or build another rig. That's been a thing in the past was like, we need a C rig so we can go off and do like a radio ident or whatever. Now you don't need that because the gear's getting smaller, you know, compared to the radial system you saw earlier. Now you can do twice as much in half the size. So these kind of rigs are really good for A, B, fly off, do a radio thing, whatever. They can fit in different cases and just cover the whole tour, you know.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Burna Boy?
I want to talk about Burna Boy.
Let's talk about Burna Boy.
Let's talk about fucking Burna Boy. Come on.
I mean, that's a bit more of a complicated rig. The brief from then, going back to what we were saying about capture earlier on, the brief was we want to be able to go anywhere. We're not sure sometimes if we're going to get only analog lines to plug into, whether there'll be MADI in other venues, whether we'll need Dante. We want multiple outputs. So we effectively had to design a rig like this that just had every option, so they knew they could go anywhere and be able to plug in. Again, bass RAM, MADI gear. And
they want video outputs for stage that reflects what's going on Ableton, and they want to be able to control Ableton via USB, via trackpads and keyboards, and they want AbleSet monitors and controllers around stage in multiple points. So that's why you can see on that schematic the bit at the top is all the stuff that gets sent to stage, which is basically their control.
It's all possible though. If you want remote screens, you want your playback rig off stage, but you want a screen showing you what's going on Ableton. It's all possible using SDI or network technology. Keeps your cables nice and small and thin.
Yeah, I mean, keeping everything on a network is one of those 2026 tricks, I think. Like, you can do pretty much anything on data, and those cables are much easier to find when one breaks.
Well,
You'll find one in the office of the promoter pretty easy.
And a fly rig, you need, if you're going to do festivals, you've got to have a cable that's over 20 meters. I'd say 20 is probably your absolute minimum. But a big fat cable that's 20 meters long is like...
It's not the one.
It's not going to fit in a pelly. So again, that's a design choice. It's driven by, okay, we've got to do festivals. It's all part of, again, it's going back to that, asking those questions early on.
Yeah.
What have we got to do? We've got to do festivals. Okay, let's find smallest cables, thinnest cables we can. So.
Yeah. Festivals are very, very different headline shows.
With
totally.
With enough shielding as well.
With enough shielding, yeah.
That can cause a problem.
Fucking hell, shielding as well.
Yeah, festivals especially throw up like a whole series of other questions.
Yeah.
It actually makes you streamline your rig.
Yeah,
because you've got to get it set up so much quicker. It's quite a good kind of leveler to think. Even if you are doing your own shows, almost building and designing for festivals is what you should be doing, because then when you get there, you've got that covered.
I think sometimes people forget as well that, you are going to have to do a 15-minute changeover at this point, and we should be aiming to do this in 15 minutes, as opposed to, our headline show where we can just hang out all fucking day and do whatever we want.
Oh, we've had that on Chemical Brothers gigs where we were the only live act, everyone else is a DJ. So they're like, you can change over in 5 minutes, can't you?
Yeah. Like, with the big fucking robots.
Have you seen the mothership?
A massive riser and some massive fucking robots. Great. I mean, is there any other gigs you wanted to talk about? Because you guys do a lot of stuff. Like, the one I'm most familiar with is Bicep. Have you talked about Bicep?
The opening slide that's got like the 4 different artists on it, there's a Bicep top left there.
Bringing it back to performance rigs, we've mainly talked actually about playback, but here we have the Bicep performance rig. That is a performance rig. They play it. That's what they play. They've got a little computer. They've got one computer, non-redundant, because they've chosen their equipment really well and they know that it's not going to change, but they've got a spare computer in the bag. 1 box each, the lid comes off and they plug it in and it works, and they can do 2 shows in a day. We get a lot of people asking for this. What's special about Bicep is they really worked on what they wanted to do. They really knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they worked out what equipment to do it, and it wasn't going to change for 2 or 3 years. So they were happy putting it in the box and almost battening it down, and nothing's going to change for 2 seasons. But we get a lot of people asking for that, but it is expensive. So we developed this system here, which you can't see.
It's the Overmono.
It's the Overmono, right? Which is basically a pelly with kind of foam shelves in it, and we've got these wooden boards that we just kind of cram it in very carefully. All the gear, their performance systems on the boards, so they just open the pelly, take the boards out, put them on the deck, and that works out really well because it's about half the price in terms of labour and materials than one of these, but you can achieve the same thing.
I mean, that was a really useful part of that design, was trying to pre-configure as much as you can. So if you've got a bunch of tech that's going to live on a table, for example, mounting stuff on boards, having everything pre-plugged. Like with Overmono, all we had to do was take out 3 boards, plug a couple of things in, and the whole rig was working. So just trying to pre-rig as much as you can will save you time.
That whole pedal board thing works across the board, for want of a better fucking word.
This is pedal boards. This is pedal boards for electronics artists.
Yeah,
hardware sets.
100%, because you can do it with so much other gear as well. All your keyboards, all of your effects stuff. Also as a guitarist, if you're good at building pedal boards, you're probably going to be able to build stuff like this. Do you know what I mean? Like all of that theory that you're going to come up with of like, right, how can I get little right angle jacks into everywhere? How can I power everything off of one, Ojai or other Seox or there's other equivalent power supplies? It's the same theory. It's the same stuff, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, we entirely stole that guitar pedal board idea,
right?
And just applied it to drum machines and effects pedals. And
I've worked with artists where there's been a fucking SPD on one, as well as various effects pedals and MIDI controllers and
drinks holder.
The drinks holder is the most important bit for your signature brew beer. I won't miss that one. Get them to come back next year. I feel like that's pretty information dense. That's a lot of stuff for.
We could go on.
We could go
for
on
a long
more.
time.
You could go on.
Yeah. We didn't touch on the process, the much, but there's a whole order of things that we do, and you can't really do it out of order. But if you go back to the second slide, here we are. This is project management, basically.
Everyone who went to music school thinking, I'm going to be able to be a rock star for the rest of my life, and here we are with a fucking timeline, and now you're a project manager.
Yeah. So this is really important to us because we'll be running multiple projects, and we trade on reliability and dependability. So we have to get it right. We have to know our schedules, and we know where things can go wrong, and we know where things can time can kind of inadvertently multiply or
It's funny how the minute you write stuff down, you might think, I've got ages to build this system. And then the minute you map it out on the calendar and then start to think about shopping and things needing time to turn up, you haven't got a lot of time. This is a really good thing to do for anyone.
If anyone wants a copy of this as a JPEG or something, come and see us and you can have it. No problem.
It's not a bad roadmap for a project.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that seems pretty cool, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Hopefully there's been something useful for someone.
Okay, great. Well, make some noise for Gravity Rigs, guys. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. Have you got any pluggables? What's your Instagram?
GravityRigs.com.
It's all Gravity Rigs, wherever you go.
Come and land on GravityRigs.com. All our client stories are on there, so you can read in detail about the different rigs we've designed for people. Get in touch with us if you need any advice on anything. Gravity Rigs on Insta. We're going to be feeding a load of knowledge this year. How-tos. Just follow us and you'll get that for free.
One thing we've done this year is pivot so that we're not just a bespoke design and build company. We have changed so that any customer or client can come and sort of consume us the way they want, whether it just be buying kit or just getting the design or
as a web
just
shop,
advice or, however you want to use us, we can do it.
Users and abusers.
So long as it's talking rigs.
Talking rigs.
As long as it's talking
Stay on brand,
rigs.
guys. Talking rigs. They'll also be in the bar, so, grab a beer and quiz them about rigs. Talk rigs with Gravity Rigs. Thank you, Gravity Rigs.
Thanks, Tom.